So let's see if this works.
Delegate Price.
Yes, it did. All right.
Yes.
So
I hear the music.
Intergalactic Wrangler, if you're still here, because you're the only one letting us know how the audio is working. So let's know how the audio is. Yeah, am I sounding great? Is Patricia sounding great? Is Nick sounding great? Just let's know in the chat.
Because isn't University of Virginia providing gender sex change operations to minors? Isn't this already happening in the Commonwealth of Virginia? Did you just admit that what was actually going on was illegal? And you're now assuring us that the thing that is going on that you tell us is not going on is not going to be protected in your bill, even though it's so poorly written that if you had a bad enough judge, which we do, they could theoretically determine that it is perfectly legal under this constitutional amendment. There you go, HJ1, right? Just like the founders, just like the founders. How about HJ2, the automatic restoration of voting rights for felons? Now, this is one that some people, to include myself, we were willing to say, look, there are some crimes that when someone has, let me back up. In Virginia, if you've committed a felony and you've served your time and you've been released,
Well,
you can
thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler. So we had a major solar event. Well, things may still yeah.
Oh Lord, those solar storms are really bad.
Yeah, so that could be it. Well,
See,
thank
we
you for
were
letting us
hacked
know.
by the sun.
Yeah, so thanks for letting us know. And it might mean that the live stream that we did, like the first few minutes of this live stream, are essentially unusable because of that. So, but that's fine. And
That's
thank you for letting us know. Look, like you guys are amazing. Intergalactic Wrangler, thank you so much.
petition the governor to have your rights restored. And governors do it very regularly. In fact, Don Scott, who served 7 years, the Speaker of the House of Virginia, who served 7 years in a federal penitentiary for, I think, cocaine trafficking, had his rights restored by a Republican governor.
So go figure. The guy who committed a crime spent 7 years in prison, becomes the Speaker of the House, passes these insane laws, prevents Republican bills from even reaching the floor, including a hearing on a from a grandmother who was complaining about how a school uh, transitioning her granddaughter led to that granddaughter eventually being trafficked. Oh no, he blocked that from being read on the floor of the house. Surprising, shocker that someone who was indicted and imprisoned for cocaine trafficking would do that.
There are some people who should never be in charge of anything in the government if they've been convicted of certain federal crimes.
Because
You
a
don't put
criminal,
a rapist in charge of women's rights. You don't put a cocaine trafficker, somebody who was selling cocaine to gain wealth, in charge of health care or children or anything else.
or making the laws in your state.
Right. And these are, I don't know. Well, they made a guy who wanted to kill an opponent's child in its mother's arms that they elected as their general attorney.
Yep.
I mean, what kind of sick people are living in Virginia?
Well, the kind that listen to CNN and TDSBC.
I couldn't believe that even happened.
Well, well,
I
it
was
did.
just, I was floored that anybody would even vote for somebody like that.
Let's keep
McDonald.
going.
Right. So this happens fairly regularly. We've had Democrat governors just do almost like blanket, auto pen signing of restoration of rights. But now they just want it to be automatic, it just automatically happens. Now, I want you to keep in mind when they were debating HJ1, the idea that we could kill a human being in the womb all the way up through 9 months of pregnancy and that human being had no rights whatsoever to life. They were then saying that you are unchristian if you are not willing to vote for automatic restoration of voting rights for a child rapist. That's right. Some of us were willing to say, look, for some crimes that might be low-end felonies, nobody was hurt or whatnot. We'd be willing to say, okay, let's have a conversation on when we should say, like, look, your rights are automatically restored. But we're not doing it for murderers. We're not doing it for rapists. We're not doing it for people that abuse children. No. You are unchristian. That was the argument that Delegate Sia Price, a Bible scholar, self-described, of course, told us was our problem if we didn't want to vote for automatic restoration of voting rights for people that had literally eliminated the voting rights of their victims. Right? That's again, does this sound now? Again, the way they say is this targets Jim Crow era rules, because anything that was passed, right, longer than 27 minutes ago is either a tool of the patriarchy or a tool of Jim Crow. Now, when you point out that their gun bills, their gun restriction bills are also an era of Jim Crow, then they don't want to hear it. This is why I've gotten to the point where with so many of these things, I'm not interested in having a conversation with them anymore, because it's not a good faith. It's not a good faith debate. It never is.
It's not.
Right? They will invoke Jim Crow when it suits their needs, and they will ignore it the moment it does not.
Yeah.
How about this one? The Marriage Equality Act. This repeals the constitutional definition of marriage as one man and one woman. This is going to enshrine, right now, this one will enshrine essentially just gay marriage into the Virginia Constitution. Now, remember, in the Obergefell decision by the Supreme Court, this essentially overturned the constitutional amendments in any state that had said that marriage is between one man and one woman. But that really wasn't decided properly. And in fact, people that were advocates of gay marriage, like Justice John Roberts, had even said, this is nowhere in the Constitution. Like, we're just deciding this because the left wants it. We're not doing it because there's any sort of constitutional justification for the Supreme Court to decide this for the several states. But they did anyways, and now they're trying to overturn it in Virginia. The other thing that's going to have problems with this is it's going to be the question is, like, if you now open up the definition of marriage to the degree that you have, what happens if a Christian church or any other religious denomination that doesn't recognize same-sex marriage, what happens if they don't want to perform such marriages? Well, their claim is that, well, we have the appropriate rules in place to protect conscience or religious rights.
Yeah, right.
But then when we tried to add an amendment to make sure that was clearly understood, they didn't want it. So
yeah. So this is the game these people play. They want you to believe that they are acting in good faith and that the existing laws protect anyone who may be affected by the changes that they are proposing. And then when the other side decides, okay, let's make sure that we reinforce those safeguards, they push back and say no.
That's because they don't want those safeguards. They want to be able to dictate to a Christian, you're going to accept it no matter what you think.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what they're telling you. That's dictatorship. That isn't democracy, it's dictatorship. There is a major, major difference. And the Democrats are no longer running on a democracy model. They are running full-blown communist dictator. In your face. Now stop them.
And they expect you to like it.
Oh, you're going to like it or you're going to end up in jail.
Yeah.
Because if you refuse to marry these two women in your church, we're going to lock you up.
Yeah.
They did that to a woman at a clerk's office up in northern Kentucky that refused to issue a marriage license to same sex. And she went to jail because she said she couldn't do it because of her religious beliefs. So instead of them getting another clerk to issue it, they locked her up.
Oh, so what he just said about conscience, that's where it comes in. All right. That's where it comes in. Because they want to be able to do that. They want to be able to terrify the general population into saying, see, if you don't do what we insist that you do, we're going to throw you in jail.
Hmm.
We're going to ruin your life.
That is how communists control mass populations, is through the fear of that person losing their life to jail or death. That's when it starts coming down to that point. And the people in Virginia who are voting for this stuff don't even realize that that's what they're voting for.
Because they're being lied to for the most part. And for
Oh
the
no.
most part,
Uh,
and for the most part, people love being permitted to do these things so much that they
it's
don't
like
care about their freedoms being taken away.
when they brought up abortion. Oh, it's going to be for mother women who would lose their life due to a pregnancy or rape or incest. Few and far between. Then it became very many black abortions.
Yeah,
So much so that the black population has stayed about the same for decades.
yeah,
And then they expand on it. Oh, we're going to do it for 6 months. We're going to do it for 8 months. We're going to do it for 9 months. Let's kill the baby after it's born. We'll keep it comfortable.
hmm,
And these types of things are just, and I mean, Pelosi exposed it all when she came out and said, you got to vote for the Affordable Care Health Act so you can find out what's in it.
hmm,
We're not going to tell you what's in it before you vote for it,
yeah.
but you can find out after you vote for it.
Intergalactic Wrangler says when the pendulum swings back, it's going to be hell. Look, one of the I told Patricia before we started the live stream, I said, I don't understand why I'm so upset about this. I don't even live in the United States. I'm not a citizen. I don't know if I'm planning to move there anytime soon. But why am I feeling this upset about this? It's because of the lies. It's
Well,
because of the fact that once the Democrats succeed at destroying the United States, they are going
it's
to
spread like
turn
cancer.
their eyes to the rest of the world. And already the rest of the world is doing a bang up job at
Yep,
destroying themselves.
they are.
So the one thing keeping the rest of the world from going up in smoke is the United States.
And it's
And
under serious attack.
yeah, so
Very
I'm
serious.
really, really upset that I'm seeing this happening in Virginia. Well, let's keep going.
It's pretty
Oh, and guys, if you're watching, please leave a message in the chat. Okay, stop lurking. Okay, just leave a message in the chat, or at the very least, put heart emojis. Just dump emojis in the chat to let us know that you're agreeing with what we're saying or disagreeing. You don't have to be articulate. Okay. Thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler, for jumping in the chat. We do appreciate it.
important to understand that this is not just going to be something where, hey, we're just enshrining the Obergefell decision in the Virginia Constitution. No, they're going to set up a legal framework to where they can come after institutions, to include religious institutions, that don't agree with their definition of marriage. And that's going to be a problem. And nobody gets to tell me they're not going to do it simply because they stood there and said, well, this is not what that is about. Spare me. I've seen this too many times where they make one claim and they do something very differently. How about this? HJ4. This is the mid-decade redistricting authority. So a few years back, Virginians actually changed the Constitution in Virginia to take it out of the exclusive control of the legislature to write our congressional lines and to write our state House and Senate lines, right? All of that was going to be done by basically a group that was going to include a variety of experts, academics, and then the legislature would have some say in that process. But if they couldn't agree on maps, then the Supreme Court would decide. Well, guess what? The little group that they put together couldn't agree on maps, so the Supreme Court decided. Now they want to go back and they want to change that, and they want to change it in favor of, once again, Democrats just or the legislature just deciding what the lines are. So do they want to do that, and do they want to say, okay, we're going to make this a little bit more fair based off of how people vote in Virginia, and in Virginia we tend to be we have been a bluish state, right? A purple on the side of blue state, but our last governor, our last lieutenant governor, our last attorney general were all Republicans. Right? It's not as if the Democrats just run away with elections in Virginia. And that's reflected in our congressional representation. So in the last map that the Supreme Court drew, Democrats got 6 seats and Republicans ended up getting 5. They want to now change it to 10 Democrat seats and 1 Republican one. Right? Because this is, again, like the Richmond Times-Dispatch says, guys, it is just like the founders.
And this is another reason why local elections matter. You have all of these bureaucrats making decisions that systematically shift a state that has an even representation of both Democrat and Republican to becoming purely Democrat-led.
I would love to go to Virginia and interview people and find out, have you ever read the Federalist Papers? Have you read the Constitution? Do you know what they say? Because you're being told what to believe they said, with no idea of actually what they did say.
Yeah.
And you're too dumb to go look it up.
Yeah. Okay. Earlier, I mentioned that today my plan was to work on a free gift that I want to start offering regularly on my videos, and it is a compilation of all of the lies and hoaxes that have been spoken about President Trump and how they've been debunked. That is a free gift I want to put up on the videos for free download for anyone who cares, because we all have those friends and relatives who say, oh, what about this? Oh, what about the other? You have a little PDF on your phone that you can scroll up and say, okay, that hoax, here's what actually happened, and here's the link. Here's what actually happened, and here's the link. All right. People who don't like facts hate that, because you're responding to them calmly and you're giving them the facts. You're saying, this outlet said this, but here's what President Trump actually said. Now, we're also if Patricia is willing to help, and I know she is, we're going to put together another free document of constitutional hoaxes that Democrats have said, oh, this is what the Constitution says. And then we're going to basically say, this is what they say, but this is what it actually says.
They actually used one of the Bill of Rights to illegally take prayer out of schools. And it was that, and you hear it all the time, separation of church and state. There is no such thing. It's all the Constitution says is that the United States of America, federal government, will not dictate what religion is practiced in the country. That was the separation of church and state. It did not say we're going to make it illegal for you to say prayer in public, make it illegal for you to pray at school, make it illegal for you to pray in legislation or government branches. That was never ever intended by our Constitution.
Yeah.
It says you have the freedom to practice your religious beliefs. And that is to the point that you don't harm or murder somebody over it.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a Muslim man up in Michigan killed his daughter because she strayed out of the Muslim faith and called it a mercy killing. Did that negotiate him to not be tried as a murderer. No, he went to prison. So that's the difference in saying we're not going to allow the government to dictate religion, but yet they allowed it for a atheist.
Yeah.
And atheism is a religion,
Yeah.
but they let an atheist dictate to the entire damn country what religious practices people could do.
That
That's
that is look, guys, I'm like, do you know what? I'm enjoying this live stream, even though the first bit was messed up with that, like the audio was messed up. But do you know what? I'm enjoying the live stream. Why? Because we're simply relaxing. I hope you have a cup of coffee over there with you, and we're simply looking at what's actually happening. Looking at Look, we can easily pull up videos of protests of people screaming and acting like fools and say, oh, look how horrible that is. This is the root of all of that insanity.
well, I can
When
tell
people come
you
in,
how prayer got taken out of schools. An
mm,
atheist woman went to Congress and used this separation of church and state to get prayer removed from the schools. And while she was doing that, the people out here in the country were saying, oh, Congress will never allow that to happen. But nobody called their congressman.
mm,
Nobody stood up and said, no, we don't want what she's pushing. That was the first downfall of the First Amendment.
yeah,
The first. They proved during that time that they could subjugate Americans' Bill of Rights,
mm.
that they could wipe out parts of it just by getting stuff like that done.
So in essence, now, um, so let me ask you a question. Where okay, what was the origin of the school system in the United States? Was it a government-led initiative, or was it or was it or was it started from the church?
Um, I'm going back to settlement days that they built schools for children to go into it. Communities built the schools.
Hmm.
Um, People would bring lumber and whatever it took to get the building up. They'd cut down trees and mill it into boards and stuff so they could build a building. Um, the schools originally started out inside a church because the church was always built first, and then they would build a school.
Mm.
Um, was it run by the church? No. They would hire a teacher to come in to teach. They would hire uh, a young person to teach the students.
Mm.
And back then, it's all you had to have was an eighth grade education. My grandfather taught at a one room schoolhouse in Western Kentucky. And he instilled in his grandchildren the passion to learn. Not only new things, but from our past
Mm.
history. And he always made it important to us to know our history because he said, without your knowledge of that history, you will never know what's right and what's wrong
Mm.
because you will know what was tried, what failed, what worked. So you won't have to repeat the mistakes made in history.
Yeah.
And as far as America is concerned, we were making another one with the open borders.
Mm,
because slavery was crossing our border.
mm,
Plain out. Yeah, they call it a nice name now, human trafficking,
mm,
but it's slavery. And I
mm.
haven't heard one person stand up and put that down.
Do you know what? Um, do you recall in the earlier streams that where we were calling the fentanyl trafficking, where we essentially called the drug boats, where we called the thing the drug boats were bringing into the United States weapons of mass destruction? Do you recall when we were saying that?
Yes,
And now I think it's been adopted as the classification of those drugs, that those are weapons of mass destruction. The Trump administration recently adopted that as their classification for what they're doing. I think we should equally start changing the phrase um, human trafficking to what it really is and call it slavery.
it is slavery.
So
Full
let's
blown.
go back to that. I know that YouTube is going to throw a fit, but we don't care because it's time for us to just
Fentanyl,
open up and say the truth.
fentanyl is China's chemical warfare on America.
Hmm.
That's what fentanyl is. COVID was a biological warfare weapon used against America.
Yeah.
And people are uncomfortable with saying that because it puts China in a whole new light.
Yeah.
Taboo would be decimated if that's the way people were talking about it.
Well, people do need to hold. China is yet to be held accountable for COVID. Yet,
Yeah,
no,
they're not.
and and
They're not
and they're
willing to
and
do that.
and they're being protected. Look at what Macron said yesterday. Like, the world is being run by buffoons at this
Yes,
point. Because for Macron to put on his sunshades indoors to give that stupid speech he gave yesterday about the world getting closer to China. Sorry, we're getting distracted. We're going to, okay, so Intergalactic Wrangler, let's just get back on track. Intergalactic Wrangler says many old school houses were churches, and he also follows up with
yes.
this. Schools nowadays are just brainwashing children's okay, are just a brainwashing children's jail. I agree. I am
Yes.
having a serious conflict in my heart about sending my kids to college. I'm college educated. My wife is. The world, is leaning in the direction of college educated people, but it's becoming increasingly hard to justify sending your kids off to college for 3 to 4 years to be brainwashed by those lunatics. All right, so
Just
let's keep listening to.
just
Yeah,
make
go on.
sure that it's Prager University or a church, a very well known church university.
Yeah, and those tend to be very expensive. They're more expensive than the subsidized schools. So it's really hard to make that decision. But then again, it could just be a trade school, a good old fashioned trade school, and then he comes out and does a couple of certifications in business. Just something really simple without the indoctrination that they're pushing in those
Well, plumbers and
institutes.
electricians and car mechanics make more than doctors.
Yes, amen. Okay, so I'm really thinking about that, and well, let's jump back into the video now. Are you enjoying this format, guys? Let's know in the chat. And Intergalactic Wrangler is giving all of the feedback. The other guys are just lurking. It's a work day. I get it, but it's always great to have a conversation around these things. Okay, so let's keep
And
going.
Which I also think is interesting, that they would want to emulate the founders or use the founders to compare with Abigail Spanberger. Why would you want to do that? I thought the founders were all evil, bad, white, rich
Exactly.
slave owners, right? Except that it's the
Yeah.
250th anniversary of the
yeah,
country. And because Virginia is actually home to quite a few very, very pivotal founders, Now all of a sudden it's the idea that we're going to take that patriotic fervor around 250 years and Virginia's proud history with respect to the founding of this country, and now we're going to try to tie it to Abigail Spanberger. Did anything I just described sound like something the founders would have done? Oh, but we're not done. We are not done. But first, I want to thank the sponsor of this episode, True Classic. That's right. True Classic has one mission, and that's to make sure guys look good and feel even better. I love True Classic shirts primarily because my wife is the one that bought them for me several years ago. And at first I was wondering, why did you buy me these random shirts? I can just go, get something at the store. And she's like, no, I want something that is actually designed to fit correctly. And that's why I love True Classic, because it does. It fits great and it makes you feel great. And now you can get them online if you would like. In fact, you can go to trueclassic.com/Nick and check out the deals there. Or if you're out and about shopping, you can also find them in places like Target and Costco. Again, really appreciate True Classic sponsoring this episode. Go check them out. Again, trueclassic.com/Nick. That lets them know we sent you. Okay. Let's look at the list of bills. So again, we talked about the constitutional amendments. This has been a part of the conversation. But then as soon as the Democrats took power, or the sort of complete power that they now possess in Virginia, they dropped a whole litany of bills. Now, if you listen to the speech that Abigail Spanberger said, she was all about affordability. That's all the Democrats were about. They were about fairness and openness and civil discourse and a return to civility. and they wanted they just wanted people to be able to afford to live in Virginia. That's all they wanted. That's all they wanted. What's so bad about it? Okay, let's look at the bills they actually dropped because...
Yeah, so it's at this point that I lost it. At this point, so guys, brace yourselves. We've heard a bit of it from Hannity. I think that may have been lost with all the audio issues we had earlier, but here's where I lost it.
There seems to be at least a teensy bit of discrepancy here between what they claim and what they're actually
There always
doing.
is. There always is.
Democrats now control the legislature and governor's office. By the way, this comes from Greg Price on X. Democrats now control the legislature and the governor's office in Virginia. Here are just a few of the bills they've introduced. A new 4.3% sales tax on Uber Eats, Amazon, and other deliveries. Because, that's going to make things more. It's going to make things more affordable, guys. Right? Don't you get how this works? It's more affordable because they say it's more affordable. What's another one? Okay, new sales tax on admissions to a wide variety of businesses. Oh, again, because one of the best ways to bring down the cost of goods and services is to increase the taxes on the organizations and entities which provide the goods and services. How about they're going to create two new higher tax brackets of 8% and 10% on people making over $600,000? Again, this is always one of those progressive tax policies where it's like, no, we're just taxing the rich.
And this is classic Democrat policy. This is what Democrats do everywhere.
Who makes that kind of money?
The people who exactly. So they're essentially punishing business owners for creating jobs and for bringing wealth into communities. Look, I don't know if
it's like I said, they always say tax the rich, but they are sure to tell you it's those corporations, because a corporation does not have a personal ID. They're not recognized as Bill Gates' company. It's recognized as the company. And those are the ones that need to pay the higher taxes.
So the people who celebrate taxing the rich, the people who celebrate these insane promises that the Democrats and socialists and leftists always spew out, the people who celebrate this insanity, let me ask you a question, okay? If you were one of these people who earn over 600,000, you started with nothing. You started with nothing. You built up you started at zero. You were a janitor, or you worked at McDonald's. You started a business, and then somehow you were able to successfully grow that business over 20 years to the point where now you earn $600,000. That's what you take home every year. You're rewarding yourself for the years of hard work, and now you have this policy being put in front of you to tell you that the state is now going to punish you for all of your hard work. How would you feel about that?
And it's nothing for a small business owner to put in 12, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh,
You're not going to go to the birthday parties. You're not going to go to the baby showers. You're not going to go to weddings. You're not going to visit anybody. You're going to be in that business, making sure that it's getting off to a really good start. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of self-sacrifice. You're not going to go on vacation. You're not going to buy a new house. You're not going to buy a new car because everything is being streamed into the new business. You're
and
going,
and even when you're home, you like you're not home,
no, you're still working on the business.
you know?
You got your
Like
laptop up. You're going through um, your inventories. You're going through your accounting, and you're trying to get this set up and working and making sure that everything's running right.
yeah.
And do
I've
not do your own taxes. Go hire a CPA to do it. It's easier, and they're not
yes.
that expensive.
I've I've watched the I've watched the misinformation around businesses go on for years.
And that is
And
why we have people who work in factories, because they are not willing to put that sacrifice out there.
no, they're
They're
not.
not willing to give up the vacation time. They're not willing to give up the new car, the new home, the fancy clothes, all that stuff. They're not
Yeah,
willing to set their life on hold until that business takes off.
yeah.
And
So
not everybody is meant to be a business owner.
no, no. Look, it's hard. It is grueling, it is hard, and there's a price for success. I watch people want to be a big shot, they want to be successful, they want to be a star. And whenever you see these people who are stars, you should look at their lives and ask yourself, is that what I really want? There are lots of people who have become stars and they've sacrificed their marriages to be that, or they've sacrificed their kids to be that, or
Yeah,
they've sacrificed their health to be that. Look, there's a sacrifice to be made to be any of these things that we all aspire to. So sometimes when I sit back, I'm like, do I really want this if it's going to cost me my marriage? Do I really want this if it's going to cost me my kids? You
yeah,
know, like there was one before I lost my job and had to go full time into YouTube. I I called my wife and said, okay, look, I really want to take YouTube seriously, but I know it's going to demand time. Now
yes.
let's
A
make
lot
a
of work.
deal. Let's make a deal. The moment you feel like it is affecting our marriage, tell me and I'll stop everything. You know, I had to tell her that
I bet.
because I know. Oh, okay. I had to tell her that because I understand how all consuming trying to start a business is. I understand what it takes, to succeed on YouTube, and well, at least to an extent, and I know that it's easy to get consumed by all of this, and it can destroy the things that you really love. Look, I am not going to when I'm lonely at night and I need someone to talk to, I'm not going to be talking to my YouTube channel. I'm not going to be hugging my YouTube channel. I have a wife who is a beautiful woman, who is lovely. She's amazing. She married me when I had nothing, when I was nothing. When I looked like trash, she married me. And she's stuck with me now. We're in our 17th year of marriage. Look, those are the things that matter. I have three beautiful kids. I don't want them growing up resenting me because I spent more time in front of a camera than talking with them about their lives. So there's a balance there, but it's hard work to want to succeed. I can't succeed or grow the channel like other people who are single can grow their channels. So sometimes I'm sitting in bed with my wife and I see that something has happened. Trump has made a speech or something happens, and I can't go live. I can't jump out of bed to say, "Oh, sweetie, I have to go live now." I have to stay with my wife and talk with her. I already spent the whole day up here recording and doing stuff. I can't just jump out of bed to say, "Oh, I have to go live." Yet I look at my feed and I see other creators going live, and most of them are either divorced or single, or yeah, like I can't do the things I would really want to do because it's going to affect something else, that is important. So there's always a price to pay. And and when someone eventually succeeds after paying that price, okay, and then they succeed, and all you see is the money that they're making after the price that they've paid, and then you decide to punish them for that, that's just evil. Let's keep going. We've ranted for about 10 minutes over this one point, and there are other things, so we're just going to talk over the rest of this. I've shared the link. If you want the link to that video, just let me know, but we're going to just keep moving.
Oh, okay. So let me get this straight. The people and $600,000, that's a lot of money, right? But if you live in Northern Virginia, you're not exactly rolling in the dough, right? There's a lot of places you can live in Virginia where 600K is comfortable, but it's not like you are just, you're not Elon rich or anything. And a lot of these people actually own the various businesses. So what you've just told the people that are owning the businesses or investing in things that actually provide opportunities to Virginians for work and goods and services is, hey, we're going to punish you if you move to Virginia. We're going to punish you if you live in Virginia, right? That's what they're going to do. A new 10% tax bracket for anyone making over 1 million, because again, we're going to punish people that actually build businesses and invest and do those other things. A 3.8 investment tax on top of, a 3.8 investment tax on top of state income taxes. Because of course, why wouldn't you do this? Is about affordability, people, right? So of course we want to tax your investments. How about raising the hotel tax? That's right, because Virginia, which actually has a lot of tourism,
Yeah.
but we also have a lot of in-state tourism, which is to say, I may live in one part of Virginia, but I want to go down because of the 250th anniversary, and I want to go stay in a hotel around Jamestown or around Yorktown or around Williamsburg or any of these places. Okay, great. Well, it's not going to get more expensive for you to do that. New personal property tax on landscaping equipment, because why wouldn't there be? Ban gas-powered leaf blowers. This is something they've been trying to.
Look, we could go point to point to point and explain how destructive each of these things are. It's almost like they set off a chain nuclear reaction on the state of Virginia. Okay. What was it? Raise hotel tax. Wouldn't that be destroying the tourism industry? If someone says, I want to just visit Virginia for the summer, and they see how expensive it's going to be, they
I mean,
either
you
shorten
want
their
to
stay.
know the change in motels when um, the one chain of cheap hotels came out. You could stay in a room for $20, $30 a night. Now it's $100 a night,
Hmm.
and then they're gonna add this in on top of it. That's the cheap motels,
Yeah.
not the more exclusive hotels that'll cost you more for a one night stay. But
And it's all the taxes. It is the taxes. And then when people begin to complain about affordability, what do these clowns who set this up say? They say it's the businesses. The businesses are price gouging. They are the ones that lay on these taxes that have to be transferred to the people. Do you think that the businesses will eat these taxes, will eat the cost of these taxes? They're going to pass it on to the customers. So these people claim that they're all for affordability, yet all they're doing.
it's making it more expensive for people to do something or to buy something.
I was listening to this in the shower and I was just livid. I couldn't contain it. I sat here and I just said, okay, I sent Patricia a message. I said, here's what's going on with me. Do you think we can just do a live stream and talk about this insanity? Because it's easy to kind of do these other things and talk about these protests and talk about this or that. But this is where the problem is, where they pass these laws at the state level. You know,
to do in Northern Virginia for a while now. Guarantee illegal aliens free education, because what could be more
what's
affordable
the
than
hell?
adding, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people to an already overburdened education system that the teachers union is constantly telling us needs more resources.
And Hakeem Jeffries says he doesn't know any Democrat that is using federal dollars to provide care for, he said healthcare then, but essentially they will deny this if it becomes a big issue tomorrow. Where's all the money for state education going? Why are we spending so much on illegal immigrations? That guy is going to stand in front of a camera and claim that there's no Democrat state doing that. Well, here it is. They want to offer free education to illegal aliens. I'm glad they used, okay, well, this is someone else that used it. Illegal aliens get free education.
And that is going to cover college. Because they didn't put it K through 12. They said free education. Covers all of it.
They're going to make it illegal to approach somebody at an abortion clinic. That's right. If you're anywhere near an abortion clinic and you want to pray or you want to offer them some sort of option other than killing their baby, that's going to be illegal, right? They're going to extend the time absentee ballots can be received after election day to 3 days. So again, it's not good enough that in Virginia you have 45 days to.
All right, so I'm going to cut in and I'm going to say this: anyone who backs the push on the abortion push that the Democrats are behind, essentially is for the murder of the unborn children. Let's call it what it is, and let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not claim that that woman who is walking into that abortion clinic is carrying a child that is threatening her life. Let's not play those games. If she was carrying a child that was a threat to her life, she would be in a hospital, not at an abortion clinic. The abortion clinics are not there to provide care for a mother who is intending to give birth to a child and finds out that the child is in breach or is going to the birth of that child will end her life. That's not what those clinics are there
Well,
for. Those
they
are
have
waste
lost.
disposal. I'm sorry.
There has been a lot of women that have died in those abortion clinics.
Exactly.
They have actually had women to die.
They've covered it all up.
But we're not going to talk about those deaths. No.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Vote. It's not good enough that you can get on there and have your absentee ballot automatically mailed out to you every year. None of that's good enough. No. Now we need to make sure that even if you got it in late, we're going to count it 3 days after the election. So you have election. So first of all, you have election season, 45 days, and then election night comes, right? And you get all the results in, and you've won, right? Well, I don't know. We got to wait 3 days until other ballots come in. They're going to allow people to cast their votes electronically through the internet. What could possibly go wrong, right? At a time where about half the country is a little bit skeptical of the way that some of these elections have been running. And it might have something to do with the electronic voting machines. It might have something to do with why it takes days to collect all the numbers when these electronic voting machines are supposed to make it easier and faster to do this. It might have something to do with millions of people being let in the country illegally at the same time that Democrat states drastically reduce what it requires to actually register to vote. Right? It may have something to do with all that. But in a time that all that is happening, you now want to do this. They want to expand ranked choice voting. They want to extend the deadline for ballot curing to 1 week after Election Day. They want to redact the addresses of political candidates from FOIAs. They want to add Virginia to the National Popular Vote Compact for presidential electors. What does that do? It essentially gets rid of the Electoral College. They want to make it illegal to hand count ballots. That's right. If the ballot can be counted by a machine, I'll show you the bill here in a minute. They want to make it illegal to count it by hand. Why would you make that illegal?
Oh
Right?
my
I
gosh.
understand if you say, okay, look, we have electronic voting machines, we're going to use the electronic processes for voting them, but why would you make it illegal to hand count them?
I I got to this point, and I think it was at this point that I sent you that message. This is what Democrats want to do across the states of the union. This is what they look. Whenever you look at states like California and what you're now seeing being prepped in Virginia, that is the Democrat doctrine at play.
Pretty soon
So
it won't matter about elections. They keep this up. It won't matter anymore.
yeah, that's the whole
It'll be like
intent.
Russia, Putin running for election. And what happened to his opponent?
Mhm.
He was poisoned. They killed their opponents.
Look at Mexico. The number of political assassinations that happen in election season in Mexico. In
It
Nigeria, it happens. It's expected. Look, um, a a lot is going on under the covers in America, in the United States, and um, the whole country's eyes are turned on. Oh, look what's going on in Minneapolis. Oh, look, Trump is threatening to invade Greenland. Oh, look how horrible that is. And then there are events like this happening. No one is really breaking down and talking about it. We've been here live for an hour and 54 minutes, and only a handful of people care to sit and listen to content like this, to actually ask what the hell is happening in these blue states. What the hell is happening in the United States of America? Like I can see like you don't even have to be able to see to understand that this is extremely destructive to the United States. So when a state like Virginia does something like this, when California does what they do with not requiring voter ID and redrawing their districts based on race, when they do things like that and they tell you to your face that they are doing it because they care about the immigrants or they care about other countries. Look at Gavin Newsom going to the G12 meeting in Davos and demanding that members of NATO should stand up to Trump.
well,
Like you essentially
if he
go to
didn't,
the
his
international
wife would
stage.
get hit in the head with a hammer.
Look, I don't I don't know how the Republican voters don't realize what time it is. It is not time for the politics of the 60s, that polite politics where you assume that all you have to do is go to the voting booth and vote, and if you can't make it, the constitution is there to protect you in case you have a crazy person voted into office. They are actively chipping away at the constitution. That statement about destroying the electoral college within the state of Virginia is step one. It doesn't mean that after they pass all these laws that the United States is going to explode tomorrow. I've said repeatedly that most of us, I may be dead and gone for years before we actually see that play out. Okay, and I'm not planning to die tomorrow. But these are the steps that could be stopped. For example, if the case you mentioned earlier about the atheist who went to Congress to get prayer out of schools was headed off as soon as it kicked off in the 60s, we wouldn't be talking about this craziness today.
And it's all it would have taken was the parents of the school children picking up their phone and calling their representative and saying, vote no. We
It's
don't agree.
it's it's really that simple. But
I
but you
mean,
know what?
most Americans don't even know what bills are in Congress right now that they're going over and getting prepared to vote on whether to make it a law or not. You have no clue what they're doing up there.
Oh my God!
They're
You
not
know
informing the public. And then you hear about it afterwards and you're going, well, how did they pass that? It's because they passed it because you didn't know what was going on.
the thumbnail of this live stream says or asks a question: is Virginia lost? And if you ask me, I'll say yes, because the universe operates by a law, entropy,
Well, they've
which
set it
means,
up there to where they've changed all these things,
yeah,
but they've also changed it to where a Republican will never win another election in the state of
yes,
Virginia.
yes, just like they've done in California
Yep.
and in Illinois and in Pennsylvania. Look, when elections have consequences, guys, and um, I say this as an outsider because right now in Nigeria we don't have elections; we have selections. We don't have elections. The elections are just for show.
I mean, what happened in the last election? A candidate was placed on the ballot that didn't go through the selection process. Nobody voted for her to be a candidate.
Hmm.
And there she was, appointed.
If that had happened with the Republican Party, what would the media have done? What would
Communism.
what would the Democrats have been saying? We know this game. We know the game. The problem I have again is not with the Democrats, it's not with people who vote Democrat. It is with the Republicans. The Republicans have essentially decided to let everything burn. Yeah, you might say, look, we're outraged. You're not outraged nearly enough. Yesterday we watched um the protests being conducted by conservatives. And I said, this is what I've been saying for months now, that conservatives have to start using these tools because these tools work. It shows that the loud minority don't have don't have the power that they claim they do. They don't. If the conservatives were to get up tomorrow to say, okay, for every protest the Democrats or the leftists put out there, we are going to stage our own counter protest. And it's going to be twice as big.
Yeah.
We're not taking it seriously. A church was invaded in Minneapolis. I don't I don't see, okay, so let's see. I'm going to go on X. I'm just going to type a simple phrase, um outrage after, okay, protest about church invasion. So let me just put that: protest about church invasion. I'm just going to type that out. Okay. The only the only thing I see is the original protest. Nobody is complaining.
Isn't that
Nobody is
amazing?
complaining. The only thing I see is that protest. That's the only thing I see. And then talking heads complaining about it. Nothing else. Conservatives are not serious. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it as it is. You know,
Well,
conservatives are not serious.
conservatives will sit back and wait to see if they arrest them.
Look, they are not serious. That pastor, I am not his Lord and Savior, but should be uh, anyway. I don't know, because that's a very touchy subject. But I would expect him to be on podcasts. I expect him to be in the news. I expect him to be holding his own protests. Look,
Well, Nick had said it one time before. Being a Christian, they have let themselves be tricked into turn the other cheek. Jesus didn't always turn the other cheek. He marched into the temple, turned tables over, drove the animals out of the house of God, and raised one heck of a ruckus for what they were doing inside of God's house.
all right. I'm going to play this because
And people have
um
got to stop thinking just because they've been slapped in the face that they need to turn the other cheek until somebody stabs them.
there's a video. But anyway, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna share this. Jeez, like last year, um, a worship leader from the United States was invited to a church in Montreal. He had been refused a permit, or the city had revoked a permit for him to use the open spaces that they had already planned to use. They had to cancel on all of those engagements, and finally, a church in Montreal says, "Okay, you can come and use our building." And they're holding a worship service in the building, in a religious building that is earmarked for worship. And guess what happens? First thing first, a protester walks into the building while worship is going on and throws a smoke bomb at the head of the worship leader. After that incident happens, does the does do politicians um, complain or condemn the act? No. What do? They slap a fine on the church for allowing him hold a worship service. Like, those of us who live in other parts of the world see the insanity and we're screaming, "What are you guys doing?" That's where these clowns are trying to drag the United States to. That's their plan. They're pushing it. They're heading headlong into that. This is crazy. Now, guys, let's keep going.
$500 sales tax on firearms suppressors, because again, this is all about, once again infringing on your Second Amendment rights. They want an assault weapons and large capacity magazine bans. This is interesting because let me tell you what they actually want. They actually want confiscation. They want UK and Australia style gun laws. But this is one of those areas where Don Scott is smart. Don Scott understands that if you actually do that, then you're going to have 30,000 Richmond or you're going to have 30,000 Virginians show up on Richmond and protest like what happened the last time they tried to do this and were almost successful. Right? We had hundreds of thousands of Virginians show up in Richmond, show up at their local town councils, their board of supervisors, and protest against this. And we had like 100 jurisdictions in Virginia that said, if Democrats pass this, we're not going to help you enforce it because we think it's a violation of not only the Second Amendment, it's a violation of Article 1, Section 13 of the Virginia Constitution. right? And so Democrats realize that, okay, we only control the House and Senate by one vote. We're going to kill this thing. Well, now that they control the House by 13 votes and they were able to win an election with their chief law enforcement officer, Jay Jones, fantasizing about killing the kids of his political opponents, they feel pretty confident now. They feel pretty confident that they can get away with this. So why wouldn't they do it? So they're going to do assault weapons ban, which at this point will say you can't, it'll grandfather clause everything that's currently in. That's to try to lower the temperature among gun owners and to try to make you think that, well, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And then they're going to ban the sale. But they're also banning the large capacity magazines. What's a high capacity magazine? 10 rounds. You got more than 10 rounds, it's high capacity. By the way, what makes something an assault weapon? I used to be an 18 Bravo. That's a Special Forces weapons sergeant. There are very few people in the United States military that go through more weapons training than we do. You know what I never found? I never had a weapon sit there on the ground and then jump up and start assaulting. Right? It turns out that the people were needed in order to make the weapon do things. Right? But if a weapon has a collapsible stock, if it has a magazine that you can remove, if it has a bayonet lug that nobody uses, well, then that's an assault weapon. And by the way, this is carried by Dan Helmer. Dan Helmer is a West Point graduate, Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, right? Should know better. But I guess some of us deployed overseas and saw the horrific consequences of what happens when a dictatorial government systematically disarms their people and thought, that's horrible. I never want to see that happen in the United States. And apparently other people deployed to Iraq and said, well, if the right guy was in charge, maybe it's a good idea. 11% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition. Again, this is one of the things, they don't just hit this from one angle. They don't just come right out and say, we're going to ban this. No, they increase the taxes so much that they make it so expensive that you don't actually want to buy firearms in Virginia. You'd rather buy it somewhere else if you can. And it ends up destroying and hurting the industry. They want to prohibit outdoor shooting of a firearm on land less than 5 acres. Ladies and gentlemen, I live in rural Virginia. Most of the people carrying these bills don't live anywhere near rural Virginia. They live in their little subdivisions. The idea that you would need less than 5 acres to shoot on your land would be absurd to those of us that live in the country. They want to lower the criminal penalties for robbery. Ladies and gentlemen, at the same time that they are telling law-abiding citizens, we're going to do everything we can to restrict your gun rights. And by the way, when they get these, it's not like they'll be satisfied. When they restrict your firearms, I'm at SHOT Show right now. That's why we're doing this remotely. When they restrict your firearms in these capacities, it's not like they're going to say, oh, mission accomplished. We don't have to address this issue again. No, they will be back year after year after year, constantly infringing, constantly making it more expensive, constantly causing more problems until they get what they really want, which is UK and Australia style gun laws. But at the same time that they're doing that, at the same time that they're saying, well, guns are dangerous and we can't trust our citizens with firearms because they're dangerous. Because, your right is immediately forfeit the moment somebody else violates their right. That appears to be the thinking the Democrats are applying to this particular issue. Now, if on the other hand, they wanted to really crack down on crime of all sorts, I would at least see some logic. I wouldn't agree with it because I don't agree with their premise that telling free citizens you're not allowed to have firearms actually helps with crime. I think it does the opposite. But I could at least understand this reasoning that if they associate guns with crime, and so they're going to restrict guns, at the same time they're going to increase criminal penalties for people actually violating the law, I would say, okay, I don't agree with your premise over here, but I understand your thinking. But no. At the same time, they're restricting your rights to carry firearms, your rights to own certain firearms, your rights, making it more expensive for you. They're lowering the criminal penalties for robbery. And by the way, several years ago.
So first off, they take away your guns. Then they unleash violence into the population that you no longer have the ability to protect yourself against.
And how did Maduro get elected to Venezuela? Yeah, people, wake up. It takes it's very easy to vote a communist into Congress, a communist into your mayorship, a communist as your governor, and then eventually a communist as your country's leader. It's really easy to vote for that. You just go to the poll and check off the one you want in there.
Yeah.
Now, they're in there and you don't like it and you want to get them out. Well, voting won't do that anymore because they took over. They changed the rules. They're not leaving, so it's going to take a gun to get them out. And you ain't got one anymore. And you turn into Venezuela. And they call the Cuban soldiers in to shoot you because they can't trust their own citizens to shoot you.
It's
The same thing's going on in Iran right now. They called in foreigners to come in on the streets of Iran cities to
to shoot
shoot
citizens.
unarmed citizens.
Oh, jeez.
Don Scott himself was the one that was carrying bills for earned sentence credits, where he was trying to make it easier for felons, to include violent felons, to get out of jail easier, to get out of jail faster. So at the same time they are letting violent criminals out of jail early, they are restricting your ability to defend yourself from those violent criminals. Yeah, that's what's going on here. They want to ban the rest of illegal aliens in courthouses because, again, it's not good enough that Abigail Spanberger on day one went in there and rescinded the executive order from Governor Youngkin instructing state and local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. Now they want to make it almost impossible in certain areas. They want to remove mandatory minimum sentences. Now, this is one that some libertarians agree with, this idea that we shouldn't have mandatory minimums, we should leave more discretion up to judges. Yeah, we kind of tried that, and what we ended up finding out is that if you had a conservative judge, they usually made logical decisions. But if you had a liberal justice, well, they could just arbitrarily decide that the assault or the rape or the whatever else it was just didn't rise to the level of concern that they thought it should, or there was extenuating circumstances, or golly gee willikers, the guy was in the country illegally. And, we all know that the left gives more concern to people in the country illegally than the people who, are citizens of this country. So that's why we have mandatory minimums. It's because we've had incredibly bad judges that have made very, very bad decisions with respect to sentencing.
And God forbid that they find out you're conservative in
Yeah,
their courtroom.
yeah. They will throw the book at you. Here's the thing, okay?
You end up like a January 6th participant that never entered the Capitol.
Are we wasting our time, Patricia? Are we wasting our time?
No,
Because
because people need to hear this discussion. People
mm,
need to see the evidence. People need to know that this is going on and that you, the people, are losing the country that was given to you in your care. It was we, the people's care.
mm,
Wasn't the politician, political parties, president, or anybody else that was put in charge of owning America. It was given to we, the people.
yeah.
And now you've gotten too lazy to take care of it, so someone else is going to take over it.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, it's
Well, it will as long as people ain't waking up and saying what they're doing is unconstitutional in Virginia and it needs to step in. That needs to be taken to the Supreme Court and put before them and put down.
mm,
You cannot pass state laws that supersede federal. You cannot do that.
mm,
And that goes against the Constitution. And all states' constitutions are supposed to be in accordance with federal law. And they're not. That's like California passing the law in Colorado that it is no longer illegal to smoke pot. Well, I got news for all you pot smokers. If an FBI agent arrests you and you've got marijuana on you, you can be charged with being in possession of an illegal drug because the United States government has not made the possession of marijuana a lawful thing.
yeah.
And so
That's
on the crimes, which are really
Oh, sorry. Go on.
that's why people are just plumb ignorant about their own government.
I I'm 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 I don't know. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked at the recklessness of these leftists. I'm
And
shocked at the
I'm wondering
recklessness.
how many Republicans in Virginia is upset about this.
And that's a question. Like they are not nearly upset enough, because like I interrupted my day
Well,
to talk
nobody was
about this.
upset. Nobody was upset that ACA got passed in Congress without one person reading it.
No one is.
Nobody was upset. I had one woman tell me, well, this is the first time my son has gotten health insurance. And I said, wait a minute. Your son has a job with a company that offers medical insurance benefits, and he was too lazy, too greedy to pay his part.
Hmm.
So now you're telling me he's getting it free? So now he's
from
got it?
from everyone else.
Yeah.
So everyone else gets to cover his stupidity, and that's a good thing. Um, well, let's keep
Oh, yeah.
going.
Bad. We say, look, if you do this, we're saying you're going away for a while. They want to remove them. They want to allow localities to install speed cameras everywhere.
So
Right.
again, shocker that the Speaker of the House, who spent 7 years in jail for cocaine trafficking, would push a bill that would lower criminal penalties for robbery.
Oh, that's just a shocker and a
You
half.
know,
Yeah.
so it's a shocker when you elect criminals. And when we say criminals, people who have actually gone to jail for the crimes they committed. And I know that some people, I'll be polite, might watch all the way up to this point, and I don't know, I don't think they will watch all the way up to this point and say, well, Trump is a convicted felon. If you're still playing that card, you are retarded.
Yep.
Because that's going to make your life more affordable, right? And then, of course, replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Ladies and gentlemen, just like the Richmond Times-Dispatch said, this is just like the founders, right? No, let's be more specific. Let's bring that back up. Here it is. Spanberger's call for service to state and community mirrors the nation's founders. I mean, it's hard to argue with that reasoning. I remember when I read like the Federalist Papers, or when I was reading the constitutional debates that were taking place. I remember all this discussion about how, yes, what we need is an incredibly strong government authority that is going to have more control over your business, more control over your education, more control of your healthcare, which is going to drastically restrict your ability to own a firearm in order to protect yourself or a free state. I remember when the founders were just adamant about we absolutely have to enshrine same-sex marriage in the Constitution. Or for instance, when the founders like, what's the most important thing ever is to make sure that violent felons who have harmed children get their voting rights back automatically, because, we really want them participating at the forefront of who gets to make our laws. Yeah, I remember when the founders all lined up and said, gosh, the whole reason why we're starting this republic is because we want to make sure that you can kill your own child through all 9 months of pregnancy. Right? Here we are. So this does kind of beg the question: Are we at a point? Are we at a point where Virginia has fallen? And this is something that I want to. I'm probably going to make some people on my own side mad about this. It didn't have to be this way, and I know we all kind of intuitively know this, but 300,000 people that voted for Governor Youngkin didn't show up to vote for Winsome Sears. We had a lot of people who didn't show up to vote for Jason Maris, who had voted for him before. Didn't show up to vote for our ticket. And the answer was, well, I blame the Republican Party of Virginia, or I blame the candidates because they didn't run a good campaign, or I blame the top of the ticket because I don't think she did a good job. Okay, look, blame whoever you want. But 300,000 Virginians decided to sit this one out when they didn't sit it out last time.
Yeah.
And Democrats ran on affordability, and they ran on civility, and they ran on all this stuff. But then Abigail Spanberger got caught on camera several times going around telling everyone to let their rage fuel them after Charlie Kirk got murdered. Jay Jones, it was revealed that Jay Jones had several text messages where he would fantasize about Speaker Todd Gilbert's children dying in his wife's arms in order to prove a political point after Charlie Kirk got murdered.
And he still got voted.
And yet there's still the party of tolerance and civility?
Spare me.
That's what people were voting for? Or wait a second, no, I'm mad because I don't like the way Winsome Sears ran her campaign, or I don't like some of the messaging that she went, okay, well, guess what you're going to get now? Guess what you're going to get now as a consequence of not showing up? You're going to get drastically higher taxes. You're going to get drastically more woke ideology in your kids' schools. The pornographic material that was in your kids' school library is going to remain there and probably expand. They are going to continue to come after things like homeschooling. They are going to come after religious liberty because, again, they believe that if your religion doesn't line up with their concepts of tolerance and morality, then it's illegitimate on some level. And you shouldn't get to practice it in public to the extent that you would like. Right? This is the reality. And people are going to be like, well, I don't want to hear excuses from, how do we fight this? What do you mean? When the votes are 64 to 36, or was it 60, something, I think it was 66 to 34. How do you beat that? How do I fight that harder? You know, for 10 years, I sat there and I made arguments to my colleagues because I thought that that's what we do in a deliberative body. We sit here and we discuss these different things. And if you make a really good argument and you present sufficient facts and evidence, well, then that's going to change the minds of your colleagues. Not on anything substantive. How am I supposed to change the mind of a colleague that thinks that I'm inherently evil because I'm a straight white male? But by the way, there's legislation that was actually submitted that is going to discriminate against white men when it comes to government contracts, because why wouldn't it? How do I make an argument for that? I literally had people come and visit me like, Nick, you just have to say this, or Nick, you just have to explain that. And I would look at them like, I've literally been doing this for 10 years up here. But by the way, how am I supposed to make a good argument when the Party of Democracy and Don Scott refuses to let our bills be heard? And then when we tell everybody about it, their response is, oh, good, let's give them even more power.
You can't.
The bottom line is for the next 2 years.
You can't fight something like that. It's like letting the suicide bomber into your camp and then acting shocked and saying, well, how do we stop him from exploding? You're not. You let him in.
Yeah.
I had an English teacher in college that made a profound statement one day in class. Now, this is at a state college. She said, Lucifer cannot enter your home unless you invite him in. Period.
Yeah.
And this is what they're doing. They've invited Lucifer in. Now, how do you get him out once you invite him in? How do you combat that one? You don't, because you allowed them to come in.
And they've written in laws to ensure that you never get power back.
Again.
It's
is taking the power
like
away from we the people.
As soon as she steps in and is inaugurated, they put out all of this.
Well, Biden did the same thing his first day in office. His first day in office, he canceled everything Trump had done under presidential orders, stopped the pipelines, and allowed Russia to continue with their pipeline unchecked.
Okay, so let me just take the chat. Intergalactic Wrangler says, I have an I voted for a felon t-shirt. I would like to see that t-shirt. Look, watching Nick say this affects me in a way that I don't like, because Nick has been talking about this for years.
Well,
He's been exposing this.
The same thing. I mean, they had a bunch of truckers that protested, and what they do? Froze their bank accounts
Yeah.
to shut the protests down. Don't you dare protest.
I mean, how do you fix this? Guys, in the chat, what do you think? Like, is Virginia lost? Okay. Let's know your thoughts in the chat, because I'm listening to this and I'm just like, how did they let this get this bad? You know?
Well,
The only
they have lost. The enemy is in the camp. The enemy is taking over, and you ain't gonna have no guns.
Hmm. Well, let's listen to Nick.
thing Republicans are going to be able to do is challenge a lot of this in court. Some of the constitutional amendments, the constitutional amendment that they did with respect to redistricting, I think it's a clear violation of law in a few different categories. One, they didn't give enough notice before they did it. They didn't get enough time for the clerk of the court to be able to put out the appropriate information. It's supposed to happen before an election takes place, and because Democrats wanted 45 days of voting, we literally had over 1 million Virginians, I think, that had already casted votes before they actually passed this constitutional amendment during a special session. And yet, how much faith do you have that the courts are going to uphold I think the very legitimate claims that this was done illegally? I don't have a lot of faith. When it comes to marshaling the resources necessary to challenge all of these things in court, we can do that, but that's a long and very expensive process. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying that wouldn't it have been easier if Virginians would have showed up and voted for a candidate, even if they didn't think they were perfect? Do you prefer what's going to happen now? So
Too late to change it now.
it needs to be understood that the pain is coming. The other thing needs to be understood is that this is not just about like the activists within the Democratic Party. Don Scott and Louise Lucas. I wish Don Scott was an idiot. I do, but he's not. He's not. And he's not really an activist. That's not to say he doesn't have activist leanings and activist sympathies, but Abigail Spanberger is not really the one running things in Virginia, if you ask me. It's primarily Don Scott and Louise Lucas. Louise is just going to be Louise. She's just going to go. She's going to make a lot of outlandish things. She's going to drop some F-bombs because, I don't know, somebody told her it was edgy and cool. She's going to complain about why her Pornhub account isn't working. She literally did that, by the way. When we put age restrictions on who could access porn, Louise Lucas got mad about it.
These are the I'm looking for a very classy word. Okay, but these are the riffraff that have been voted in.
The
Okay.
lunatics have taken over the asylum.
Exactly. Elections have consequences, guys, and when people try to defend this insanity, you can't argue with them because they are like, you can't help them. No.
They're not.
But she gets away with it
No.
all the time. She has done. She actually had the police chief, I think in Norfolk, that arrested some people, brought charges because she was out there inciting a riot. And instead of her getting in trouble for any of it, I think she got like a large settlement from the city, and the black female police chief was fired. She runs that thing like the mob, man. Don Scott, the guy that really respects the institution and yet refused to hear over 100 Republican bills. I promise you, what is going on right now is every single lobbyist in Richmond is calling up their respective clients and saying, "Look, it is a new world in Richmond, and this isn't something where you just need to donate a couple $1,000 to Abigail Spanberger's inaugural campaign or some extra money to Don Scott's PAC or Louise Lucas's campaign account. No, this is something where they're going to be vindictive." Speaker Don Scott is as charming as he actually can be, as charming and as funny as he can be. He likes to brag about how petty he is, how vindictive he is.
You guys voted a criminal in.
You don't think they're going to use the full power of Virginia government to reward their friends and punish their enemies?
Oh,
of course they are. They think this is why government exists. because we're the bad guys, and so we deserve to be punished. Of course we should be taxed more. Of course our businesses should be audited and investigated with no real evidence, just to do it. Of course, any institution that would support or be seen as generally supportive of conservative policies, of course they should pay consequences through the state code and through legislation, unless of course they're willing to repent and come and kiss the ring. This is what they're going to do. It's not just that they're going to use this to get all the bills that they want passed, right? They will be strategic on what they do at various times. They will do this to consolidate power. And again, you're probably thinking, well, Nick, don't they already have all the power? Yeah, but it's not sufficient until the government bureaucracies, the people that get hired within those government bureaucracies that oftentimes last far longer than the politicians can be held to account by the people. The bureaucrats seldom are. It's about controlling all of those institutions. It's about creating more grant funds. It's about creating more NGOs. It's about creating more money, more government money going to the sort of things that led to the Somali fraud in Minnesota. Why? Because that creates incredibly loyal voting blocks. It creates constituencies. And if you are on the inside of those constituencies, great. Your job is to show up and vote consistently for Democrats to keep the money going. And if you're the outside, you're the ones they're going to fleece in order to pay the people that are on the inside.
All right, so I'm going to share this video once again. Patricia,
Yes.
I want to leave a little something for them to go find. For them to go find on Nick's channel. So I'm just going to stop it here and we can talk, okay? Guys, we can just talk. So I'm going to just quickly post the link here so you guys have it. Okay, so I'm stopping it because whenever you're reacting to videos, it's always great to either make it transformative, add your own commentary, but Nick does a masterful job at making the argument, and that's the title of his podcast, and he breaks down everything. And I guess at this point, you know that you have all the evidence. So is Virginia lost? For now, I think yes.
That answers
For
it.
now, I think yes, because like Patricia said, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. You voted in criminals, not the name calling that Democrats attempt to do to Trump, where they say he's a convicted felon. It's not that. This guy
I
actually
don't
went to jail for
care.
7 years for cocaine trafficking. All right, he's a drug trafficker,
A
and
drug dealer. Yeah.
he's a drug dealer. That's who's writing the laws in Virginia. So I don't want to play these games where you're trying to be politically correct and polite. Let's call it what it is. The Virginia is in really bad shape, and
Yeah, you let the suicide bomber into the camp.
if I'm gonna hide this video so that you and I can be front and center, so they can see our lovely faces. Um, every single time I I have to watch the news. I have to watch the news because I live in a world and I need to know what's going on. And bad news is good for business. So most of what you see online is bad news. And
That's why I
sadly,
watch funny cat videos.
that's why I just sit down and I watch my favorite anime or series, or listen
Yeah.
to my audiobooks.
You have to have something to counteract
You have to
the
counteract the
negativity.
insanity, okay? Else you just can't function. Else you won't be able to do anything because you believe that the world is on fire, and that nothing you can do will change anything. Look, if I believed that nothing I can do will change anything, I would shut down this channel and sit in a dark room and watch cartoons all day.
Well,
Uh, you know,
one time on Facebook, I had a friend on there, and one of his followers said, Why do you let her speak? Kick her off. And the guy come back and told him, he said, because she's telling you the facts and you can't argue with facts. That wasn't nice.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a, well, it was, it was about the inner city in Cincinnati, over the Rhine.
Mm.
And this friend of mine buys houses up in over the Rhine, renovates them, and sells them. And his follower came on and said, "We need help in the inner city." And I said, "Oh, we can come in there and fix this in a heartbeat. But it ain't going to help you because as soon as we leave, it'll be right back where it was."
Yeah.
And I said, in order for things to change in your neighborhood, you have to learn the word not. You say, not in my home, not on my street, not in my neighborhood, not in my city. And once you do that, things will change. And he said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I said, "There is a reason why over the Rhine is different than Florence, Kentucky. Over the Rhine, a shooting happens, the police show up. They have to go knock on doors.
Mm.
Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Nope, didn't see nothing, didn't hear nothing. Door shuts. In Florence, Kentucky, a shooting happens. 10 people called 911. 20 people are standing there waiting for the police to show up to tell them what happened, what they saw, who did it. That guy right there did it. They may even sit on him till the police get there.
Yeah.
That's the difference. The tolerance on the citizens' part to ignore what's going on their own street.
Yeah.
Drug dealer moves in next door to me, and I start seeing all kinds of people come in and out like it's a fast food restaurant. I'm on the phone. "Hey, y'all need to check this out. Something weird's going on there. Either they're running an illegal daycare out of there, or business or something, or they're selling drugs." And that person ends up getting visited many times by the police, and they finally move.
Yeah.
They leave because they find out they can't function with these kind of neighbors around them.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
what,
and they'll call the neighbors racist.
hey, you don't get away with that in this small town USA. It's like that song said, just try it. It don't work too well here.
No, it doesn't.
And that's because we said, not in our town. No, we will not tolerate that. You can take one of these idiots and put them at the local IGA in front of the deli um, counter and let them say one bad word about Trump and see how many people will call them out right
Yeah.
there on the spot.
Yeah.
And that person will be so utterly shocked that they panic. They grab their stuff and they run out of the store. Next thing I hear is that they packed their house up and moved back to New York because these Southerners won't listen to us. But that's what it takes. And you've got to have people willing to stand up and say, you've got to stop doing what you're doing. You've got to start paying attention to what's going on in your own government, your local government, your state government, and your federal government,
Yeah.
and in your county.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then the only thing that's going to exist there is corruption.
Yeah.
And you allowed it to happen
Yeah.
because you zipped your mouth shut about it. And you've got to stand up. You've got to speak out. I'm not talking about taking a club in your hand and go beat on people. I'm talking about you tell them, no,
Mm.
not in our town. No. Protesters show up. Mm-mm, we ain't going to allow that. You get your butts in your vehicle and you go on back where you come from.
Yeah.
And they did that in Nancy, Kentucky. Antifa came down here thinking they was going to take a battlefield from the Civil War and tear it apart, and a museum and a national cemetery. I've been in the military and I have never seen that many guns show up at one time in all my entire life. They were holding them straight in front of them, letting them know we're armed.
So
So just come
get,
on.
get off that bus.
That bus pulled up and not one soul, they didn't even open the door. Turned the bus around and went back to Louisville.
That's how it's done.
And
That
once they find out that you're no longer tolerating this stuff,
yeah.
they will go away.
Oh, but by the way, guys, those are the guns they want to take away from you
Yeah.
so that those lunatics can come do whatever they like in your neighborhoods.
Because in our little town, we don't have a mayor. We don't have a police chief. We don't have a city council. We're so small that we don't even have a red light. We have one main highway through the middle of town, and all the little roads that come off of it have got stop signs on them. And our speed limit through our little town is 45 miles an hour. And do you know not one person drives over 45 through our little town?
Civilization, guys.
I mean, without a police chief, we don't have speeders going through our town. So all they've got is a little sign up that says speed limit.
All right. So Intergalactic Wrangler has been in the chat, and essentially he's owned the chat for the day. Brother, thank you so much for joining this impromptu live stream. Patricia, thank you for obliging my rage. I don't I don't like doing things emotionally, but I think
This needed to be said.
uh,
It needed to be heard. Because if you're going to sit on your tush at home and play your Xbox or PlayStation or watch your silly movies or shows and not go to that poll and vote, you're going to be living in Venezuela.
yeah,
Period.
or China.
More than likely, China. That's like the Democrats want to start a civil war inside America so the Democrats can get on the phone and say, hey, President Xi, can you send us some troops? We got to put this down. And then you have the Chinese shooting you. That's
Do
why
you
we
do
cannot
you think
allow.
that is remotely possible? Let's know in the chat, because sometimes we say these things, they say, oh, that'll never happen. Like the Democrats said that no, it's simply having schools, taking your children and transitioning them will never happen. No, well, it's happening today. Oh, abortion is only for people who are at risk, whose pregnancies are
Like
risking their
first
lives, or
incest or rape.
it's incest or rape. But when you do the numbers, you find out that it's less than 1% of the cases that require abortion. All the other things that they claim is the real reason why they do the things they do. So, guys, whenever we mention these things, okay, it's because history teaches us that civilization is fragile. You have let's look at the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was an empire that lasted for almost 2,000 years, over 1,000 years. Let's just be conservative, over 1,000 years. and with within a short period, the empire was destroyed. It went away. It's no longer here. At the height of the Roman Empire, everyone believed that it was going to last forever because it was so organized. Everything was so well structured. It didn't look like it was going to go anywhere until they became woke.
And then they brought in a whole bunch of
Yep,
foreigners
yep.
and it went to pieces.
It
Do you
went.
know in Europe, before countries were ever formed, it was called a feudal lordship? When I see the old castle ruins across Europe, I remember that they had these little fiefdoms all
Yeah,
over the place and they would fight each other.
yeah.
If they wanted what the other one had, they would go attack them and take it. And then it became more civilized and they made larger regions under one rule and became countries. Well, right now, we're getting take back to feudal lordship.
Hmm. You
Destroy
see,
the main government, let the states rule however they want.
you see the World Economic Forum. Okay, those are the new fiefdoms. Those are the new fiefdoms. So so whenever you see them in their suits telling you all the great stuff they have in store for you, essentially you will own nothing and be happy while we own everything.
Mm-hmm.
That is what they're trying to set up. So what we're saying here, while we're raising the alarm, sometimes it's like, and that's why I asked earlier, are we wasting our time? Because it's like sometimes it just feels that way. Like the more you're screaming, you have Nick, he's been screaming from the rooftops on what's going on in Virginia for years, and then they go and do this. They let Abigail Spanberger win. They let that that lunatic Jay Jones win. Someone says, "Don't call names." Excuse me. Someone says in a text and doubles down when he's challenged. Says in a text that he fantasizes his political opponents' children dying in their mother's arms, and that would teach Republicans to vote for policies that Democrats back. And that's what he wishes. And when he's confronted, he doubles down, and then it's exposed. And then you have well, mainstream media is evil. Maybe we're going to do a T-shirt. I don't know. If I do a T-shirt, would you buy it? I think I will. I will make a T-shirt. Mainstream media is evil because you have them falling over themselves to protect Jay Jones and explain away why that text message was taken out of context and why it's not that important, and and why he's still a viable candidate, and why uh, Democrats should be excused for not condemning him and essentially demanding that he steps down from the race. No, they essentially gave them a pass, and he wins the election. So the guy who fantasizes the murder of his political opponent's children, not even the political opponents, which is bad enough, the children, is the guy that got voted back in. You know,
It's
so
crazy.
Intergalactic Wrangler says it's all uni-party crap anyway, in my opinion. And programming things over the next few years will be interesting. Well, for the
Kentucky,
country, for the
Kentucky's governor, Andy Bashir, has removed the D or R on a person's name that goes on the ballot.
are you joking? So you don't even know which party you're voting for anymore?
Yeah, that's Andy Bashir who wants to run for president of the United States of America. The same son of a gun who gave 2,000 illegal aliens driver's license in Kentucky as long as they paid some money for it. And the rest of the people in America has no clue this is going on. I've told Kentuckians out in public, at the grocery store and the doctor's offices, about this D and R being removed off the ballots. And these dumbfounded people look at me and say, "Well, how do you know what party they're in?" I said, "That's going to be left up to you to get online and find out exactly who that person is.
God.
Don't just register who's Democrat or Republican, because the Democrats can't take Kentucky. We won't give it up. They've tried for years to take Hal Rogers' district, split it apart. They sent in illegal aliens to up the the voting population so they could split it. And what happened? The illegal aliens didn't stay here because they weren't treated very friendly. Most of them leave. Can we be rude Southerns? But bless your heart, yes, we can. Yeah, if you
Look.
hear a Southerner say bless your heart, you better pay attention to what they're referencing that with,
Yeah.
because it can
Well,
get
it's
total put down.
and this again, confirms what I've also been saying for a long time, that these policies make it hard for honest immigrants to even show up in places where the Democrats have done these crazy things, because they show up and it's like, okay, you're one of those people who are here to ruin our country. You know?
We've got legal immigrants here. They own businesses. They
Hmm.
attend church in the communities,
Yeah.
and they help put on festivals and stuff like that. And they're very welcome. But you let us hear you not be able to answer a question in that's asked of you in English.
Hmm.
You're not going to have a good day, because then you're going to see some angry faces looking at you and them pointing for you to go. If you can't communicate in this community, you're not staying here. You need to go somewhere and learn to speak English and come back. Call us rude, whatever you want to, don't care.
Mm.
Call us racist in the South, really? You're going to call a bunch of white people in the South racist? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just saw this and I just wanted to share this screen, as I didn't see this. I wish I had. It would have made a good bit in the video that we just released.
Well, imagine that. Imagine
you
the
know,
deporter in chief.
yep, rewarding Tom Homan for a job well done.
But like I told you, he only deported 2.5 million people in 8 years.
Yeah.
How many did he let stay?
So this says Barack Obama's ICE chief received an award for 920,000 removals. Donald Trump's ICE chief was called a Nazi. It's the same person. Oh, geez. Look, the media is evil. Okay. Media is evil. So I'm going to end the live stream with Patricia here, because I'm going to see if I can catch up with the original plan of setting up that downloadable PDF that I promised, that would allow you to find or to catch um, people when they bring up these stupid hoaxes. I put it all in a document, and I'm going to start including it as a call to action in live streams and in the videos. So if you want, if you're watching this after the fact, it's a long video, and I'm just going to throw it out there in case there's someone who watches up to this point. If you want it, just put in the comment section, I want it, or I want the downloadable, or something. Just say I want it. Then I would simply let you know how you can get it. I'm still setting up the delivery mechanism. So once you put in the chat, sorry, in the comment section, I want it, then I'll let you have the link that lets you download it. So what we're trying to do is build a mailing list. Now, this is the reason why we're building a mailing list. So here's the thing. We've had over 3.5 million views on our videos. We have over 10,000 subscribers to the channel, to the main channel. We have 370 subscribers. I think it's gone up since you guys jumped into that since you jumped into that hold on, I just want to be sure of what I'm doing here. Since you jumped into the backup channel, it's grown up to 373 subscribers. So thank you guys for adding more bodies to the backup channel. Now, this is what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do is make sure that we have a communication system set up, because just like we can see happening in Virginia, there's also um, there's also the possibility that, who knows, the Republicans or GOP might drop the ball again and lose the House and Senate, or House or Senate. Then we come to the elections in 08 02 sorry 2028, and we have someone drop the ball again, and we have a presidency that essentially makes trouble for all of us, and YouTube and Google and Facebook and everyone goes back to what they were doing during the Biden years. We want a way to be able to communicate with you directly, and um, tell you when we have fresh content, and communicate with you when we have something fresh that will be useful to you. Like I just discussed or mentioned during the live stream, Patricia and I will be working on another document, and we're going to be working on documents on an ongoing basis. Like I said, Patricia has notebooks full of stuff, and maybe we might pick up something else and say, okay, let's work on this one now. And occasionally we're going to make this offer. Now, for people who watch the videos, we're going to say, hey, if you want this free download, here it is. For those of you who are already on the mailing list, we're simply going to send out an email to say, hey, there's something fresh here. um, if you want it, here's the download. Now, the bottom line is that we want to be able to stay in touch with you guys, because if YouTube goes away because they don't like us anymore, or um,
We'll have to go
we
to Rumble.
well, Rumble hasn't been too kind to us.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, because the algorithm and the setup on Rumble is still young, so it doesn't recommend videos as well as YouTube does. It's still growing. But in the end, if we say we're going to Rumble, and I simply send out an email, let's assume that I had this wisdom from the very beginning, and I said, okay, if you want to learn more, connect with us, or if you want to download this stuff, connect here. And then we had a mailing list of 10,980 people, because that's about how many subscribers we have right now on the main channel. And then 373 on the backup channel, and everyone could be reached with an email. It's easy to say, okay, we're moving everything to Rumble, and we're able to do that. But right now, as it stands, if YouTube were to kick me off the platform both ways, I wouldn't have any way of letting any of you know. So what I would like to do is begin this process today. I have the first document. The first document is hold on. I stayed up late last night. I was working on it. So let me see what I called it. I can't remember exactly what I called it. So I'm going to just pull up the what did I call it? Let's see. Yeah. So um, it's called the Times. Well, essentially, it's Trump versus the narrative. Okay, it's the times when the media lied about Trump, and these are the these are where the hoaxes were debunked. So it's a detailed, not detailed, but it's just it breaks down all the hoaxes and helps you to see what they claim he said or did and what actually took place. And it comes with hyperlinks, so you can literally watch some of the videos yourself. So I'm going to be putting that up. I'm going to be recording a video that will come with most of the new videos. He's going to break in and invite you to download stuff. But if you're watching and you want it, just say I want it, and then we'll let you know when the link is ready for downloads. Yeah, so it's an interesting time, and feeling so hot. I'm feeling so hot. I was wondering if the heater was on. So it's an interesting time, but I want to say thank you to you guys for joining. I want to say thank you for this was short notice, and we're still going to go live tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and we need a few hours of rest before we jump on that. We're going to be reviewing the video that we released on Monday. We're going to be looking at that and talking about some of the issues, and I think this will come up. This will come in very handy. So I'll keep this handy for that conversation because you have the narrative. These people want us to believe that immigration is so evil. Meanwhile, the Democrat Jesus Obama did it, and they didn't have any problems with it. So it's only a problem when another president, a Republican president, wins an election running on immigration, and suddenly it's evil. So we are going to be back again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I hope you will be able to join us if you can. And don't forget to like this video, share this video, and then we will see you tonight. Thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler, for being a part of this. It was fun hanging out with you on this coffee table conversation. I do hope that we'll see you tonight. Patricia, you have any last comments?
Stay alert, read, and make your own decisions.
Yeah. All right. So till tonight, we'll see you. God bless you.